Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Political Vigilante. The NSA has tried to stop this interview at every turn, but we are been. I'm very pleased to have on the show Carla Ortiz. Carla, thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Graham, thank you so much. We've tried many platforms and we've been trying for a long time. It happened. So I would just like to say hello to all your followers and the people that are always trying to look for an alternative information.
So great. So I found out about you when you were on Jimmy Dore's show. Who he's a longtime friend of mine, and I really want to get into the work that you've done in Syria, and also we'll talk about your documentary that's going to be coming out a little later on, probably next year. You can tell us more about that, Voice of Syria. My first question to you, before we get into what you've actually seen and uncovered there and all the stuff that the corporate media is not covering, they've made a deliberate attempt to give us the wrong information about Syria. You're Bolivian, you're an actress and a filmmaker. What drew you to talking about Syria?
The answer can be really elaborated and I can look good with my answer, but to tell you the truth is that at some point, we are also ignorant with the news that we get from countries in conflict. And I practiced meditation for a long time. And in one of these, I just had, it was, you can call a call. I am a person with a lot of faith, or maybe a vision for others. I just felt inclined to look a little bit closer to Syria. And when I start looking around from what I was reading, and after watching close to 30 documentaries that were available, there was only one narrative, and everything that we knew were from refugees that already left Syria, or people on the rebel-held areas that were under domination of other countries as well. So I wanted to talk to Syrian people that were leaving the war, that were in the front lines, and they were fighting this war from their home front. So I decided to go there. And truly, I tell you, at the beginning, I thought it was going to be a trip of 15 days, 30 days, and that turned into 3 years. And then I also have to be honest and say that the whole beginning of my first 3 trips, I thought that maybe what I was hearing on the ground was maybe a propaganda imposed by the so-called dictator that we know in the Western world. So that's what inclined me to go so many more times and start looking to interview people deeper and alone with any officials to share with them. And after they would host me in their houses, I would like to, I started doing the actual interviews to see what was their point of view when there were no official members in the same room. And it was really beautiful what happened to me. I absolutely fell in love with the country, with the culture. I understood that our heritage of humanity, it is in Syria, not only historically and archaeologically, but also spiritually. And I also understood that we actually have so much to learn from this country, rather than criticizing and separating ourselves from it. There is so much to it that if we learn and observe this country, we'll understand that it's actually a country that has been living in peace for thousands of years among Christians, Muslims, and Jews.
Well, that's fascinating. So just to clarify, you went there, you were living there for 3 years straight, or you went there multiple times within 3 years?
I went there multiple times. So the first time was in February 2016. 75% of the country was under occupation of rebel groups, mostly extreme groups. And then my base was Beirut. So each time I would just rest in Beirut and go back because sometimes the visa is for 10 days, 15 days, depending on the visa or permit that I would have. Then I won't be allowed to have a permit. I went to the rebel-held areas through Turkey, or I would cross, through the other side in order to understand a little bit what was the real situation on both areas. And that's how I ended up turning maybe into 11, 12 trips, but each of the trips where like each trip was like 5 times, 3 times, sometimes 1 time. So I literally lived with them. I ate with them. I cry with them. I walk with them, and I understand not just their culture, but I understand what they're standing for right now. Because in order for us to understand the actual victory of the Syrian country in this moment after almost 8 years of war, you need to understand the people and the culture.
So which is a great point, I think, and that's so much, myself, I didn't do it as extensively as you, but I also did a documentary of going and entertaining the military in Afghanistan, and I was exposed more to the Afghan people and all of that, and it really opened my eyes up. And it's one of those things you can't, there's nothing that can take the place of being there, seeing the people, talking to them, the smell, the sounds, the everything, the energy of it, the looking into somebody's eyes. There's nothing that can replace that, and it is such a profound thing that happens. So did you, when you first went, were you going there with like, oh, I'm going to make a documentary, or did the documentary kind of happen as you started going?
The thing is that I was meditating. I had this vision. I had no idea what I had to do. I've never done an actual documentary myself. I associate produce it. I produced it a couple, but I was assisting people and helping them out with contact, etc. But I didn't really know but it was so clear that I had to be there and I had to go there, that I took with me a very talented cameraographer and director of photography specialized on war documentaries in war zones. So, we were in prison within like the first 48 hours when we arrived in Syria, because people thought I was just a CIA agent, like, what is this girl doing here? Like, aren't you an actress? And then I had an American passport. Then when I was in the rebel-held area, they thought I was a Russian spy, and then I also got taken. And, it's this whole duality of positions that impulsed me to make a documentary trying to stand in the middle and hopefully, pursue a reconciliation process, not just with the West and the East, but also between Syrians of the opposition and Syrians inside of Syria, because I think they're the first victims. Like, we in the West and our media and our leaders in our governments have been throwing stones in the heads of the Syrians on both sides, and they have separated them in order to create a very weak opposition, that the people that truly wanted a bigger change were hijacked in order to not be successful. And the people that wanted to maintain the secularity of Syria, that wanted to preserve their heritage, were also hijacked on these and attacked, and their countries being destroyed. So this documentary, that at the beginning I said, okay, I don't know if I'm going to do a documentary, but I'm just going to go, I'm going to start shooting. I thought, wait a second, the female in Syria, it is something very unseen in my eyes, at least. They're extremely strong, they're extremely positive, they're extremely powerful, they're extremely opinionated, and they are very conscious of what's happening in the world, and they are the ones that hold the culture or the country in their hands. So I thought I was going to make a film about women fighting this war from their home fronts. But then, as I was advancing and I was staying in the houses where they were giving me shelter, and then coming back after 1 week and finding the house burned by terrorists, or the child that I was sleeping with in her bed, who was telling me stories and I was telling her stories, who was 4 years old, was raped. I had to take another stand. I needed to take a position on the war, and I couldn't be absolutely neutral about what my eyes were seeing. Later, unfortunately, I was present in different terrorist attacks. And, like I said in a couple of interviews, I literally had to smell the smell of burned skin of humans. I had to walk on top of pieces of bodies of children. I had to hug, these mothers that will never see their children again. And I needed to do something about it. I needed to go further. I needed to communicate to us, to people like me, people like you in the West, that we're so busy, so distracted, trying to pay our bills month to month, to understand that as we're paying these taxes, our money is being used to fuel work that doesn't concern or benefit nor the people in that country, nor our best interests. So that's what actually developed into this huge thing. And then the appointments came later, UN or Human Rights Commission in Geneva, and everybody was trying to understand who I was, why I was doing this, why I was risking so much. And it just comes from a human principle. And no, I'm not anti-imperialist, I'm not anti-democrat, I'm not anti-republican, I'm not anti-anything. I'm just a person that has seen the truth and wants to communicate the truth and want to stand by the right, by what people want. And we need to be respectful for that. So that will be the super long answer. Actually, I tried to make it short, but the long answer to the documentary and how this documentary was born.
Well, it sounds like you're probably anti-war, if I were to put a label on you.
100% anti-war, yes.
What were the most profound things that you learned that went against what the mainstream, media is telling us in the West? What was the main, like some of the main things you saw with your own eyes that you're like, wait a minute, they're telling us this, but it's actually that?
Well, my biggest thing was when I was in the Battle of Aleppo, because I ended up going to Aleppo on my third time, but on the west side, on the side that was protected by the government. Because the other two times that I was in Aleppo, it was in the middle of 2016, well, it was under the occupation of the rebels. So this was my first time on the side of the west. And I happened to be there during the Battle of Aleppo. So I was there from November in 2016 until December 20th of 2016. I spent my birthday there in a bunker, and I saw the work that the people of Syria, the civilians, the church, and the army were doing together in order to use to open the safe passages for the humanitarian corridors as well for the civilians. I got to talk to the civilians because this was one of the first battles. They wouldn't let us have cameras right in the open corridors for security reasons, but I was right there and I saw how people were being liberated. I saw how women would take off their burqas and start dancing, and how they were kissing the feet of the soldiers, and how the priests were there to receive also other priests. And I saw it with my own eyes. And then when I came back into the other side and I received messages from my mother and people in the West saying, oh my God, what are you doing? You're in Aleppo. Aleppo is burning. Aleppo is falling. Aleppo. Then I was going wait a second. No, that's not true. Guys, what are you? No, this is not true. I'm right here. I'm telling you, Aleppo is being liberated. There's no falling. There's no burning. They're not killing civilians. They're actually being exited through safe passages. Who's saying this? But until that moment, I was not thinking that there was an agenda, whether with our media or with the government. My work was being so personal and was being so humane in a way that my head was not thinking on the fact that we can be so selfish in the West, or on the other hand, that we can be so uninformed, or we should rely on these fake activists. So that was the first flag. So when I came and I was with CNN, I was with Fox, I went to CBS, etc. I did Russia Today. I did 4 or 5 interviews. It was the first time I decided to talk about my trips in Syria, because I was telling them, wait a second, there is a big lie over here. and everybody opened the doors for me, and everybody listened to what I had to say. But then, it came even something bigger, the biggest lie of all, which were the white helmets. Now, there were already different journalists that were doing investigations about this, that been investigating the white helmets for a long time. In my case, I was much more gullible, and because I always keep the benefit of the doubt. So when I was over there, I was like, I want to interview the white helmets. Are they really good? And they're telling me, no, they're terrorists. No, they work together. No, some of them help some people, some other don't. So then I ended up being in 3 headquarters of the white helmets and 1 training center. So, and I actually interviewed 14 of them in Aleppo, and in Douma, I got a meeting with 7 of them, ex-white helmets. So I can't believe, that here in the West, we still today have been giving so much money. We consider them as heroes. We keep on pushing the same agenda, that every chemical attack that has happened in Syria is being filmed by them. And nobody's questioning who are they. No one. And like I always say, in my videos, I said, regardless of everything, yes, I went to university. Yes, I have whatever you want to say, but I'm still an actress. I'm just an actress. I'm not even a journalist. Like, how do I get to discover these things? And you don't. I was there while the OPCW was there in Syria, in Douma. I got access to all the places. Where were they? And this is the thing where you say, like, why are we doing this? How many more countries we need to destroy? How many more people have to die until a regular civilian like you and me can wake up to say, okay, wait, we need to stop this?
Well, that's the thing that is so kind of crazy to me, is like, an actress and a comedian are more legitimate journalists than these. I mean, it's crazy. We're living in crazy times where you as an act just go and you get more access and get more in-depth information that you would think. You'd be like, well, where are all the actual journalists? Wouldn't they already be here by now? Shouldn't they already be investigating this? No, they're not, because they're pushing this crazy narrative. And what is so scary to me is how effective it is in terms of, first I think of my own sort of ignorance, and then I remember a year ago the first airstrike that Trump initiated in April of 17, and then he did it literally almost a year later, almost to the day. A very good friends of mine, highly educated, very smart people that I like and respect, were like, who don't like Trump, we're like, well, Trump had to bomb them. I mean, you saw those videos of the gas attacks on the kids. He had to. And I was like, wow, look at how effective the propaganda campaign is. And this is all they're fed. And then no one is seeing. You're standing right there. And I started like saying, no, I'm in Aleppo. I'm right here right now. And I started following some people on Twitter and stuff like that were there. And I'm seeing their videos, and they don't match up with what CNN and MSNBC and Fox are telling me. And I'm watching then Brian Williams talk about how glorious these American rockets are, which is just offensive. And no one in the mainstream media goes, hey, those rockets are going to go kill people. Those are rockets that could have been spent on a school, and instead they're going to go blow one up. And it's insane to me. Like, sometimes I feel like, am I going crazy? Like, have I gone nuts? And I think that's kind of what they want us to think. They don't want us to ask questions. They don't want an actress to go over to Syria. They don't want a comedian to start talking about this stuff on his show. They want us to just go make our funny little movies and comedy shows and, give us our nice paychecks to be on a sitcom or go do a movie and just get out of, don't ask these questions. Which is just, I sometimes... It's sad. And I want to ask you this, because you talked about it with your mom, watching the news and what are you doing? Because I remember all the times I did 7 comedy tours for the American military, and I saw war. I mean, now granted, I was under their protection, if you will, but I got to see sort of what a war zone was like, and people would watch stuff on the news, and my family and stuff would freak out. I know it changed me as a person. So my question, I guess it's a twofold question. How has this changed you? I'm imagining you have some type of maybe PTSD or something like that from hearing combat. I don't like loud noises. I still, because I was on a helicopter that got into a firefight, and I've heard rocket attacks, so loud noises still freak me out and probably always will. So how have you has it personally affected you, and how has it been for like your friends and family? How has that affected them and your relationship with them? I don't mean to make that sound like too complicated of a question, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
You know, Graham, I mean, we need to start first with, we cannot blame the American people. We cannot blame the British or the French or anybody in the West, because look, this is what's happening. So it is a chain, right? All of us, depending on the standard of life that we have, we are 4 paychecks to being homeless. So if we don't receive 4 paychecks, then you don't pay your car, you don't pay your house, you don't pay your insurance, you don't pay. People are trying to save money in order to send their children to get a higher education, right? There's so many concerns that are the basic big problems that every person in the West has. In order for them to go and Google, you know, every time, what is the truth about the war in Syria? What is truly happening in Libya? What was the lies, you know, in Iraq? People don't have time for this, because sometimes we are in a survival mode. We are, you know, trying to live our lives, and we, in a way, we are good people, you know, and we trust what our media is telling us, and we trust that I'm going to watch the news and I'm going to say, oh my God, I'm going to be at least a little bit informed with what is happening outside. So then, on top of that, I have all this big movement of young children that will never ever have a higher education. So in order for them to higher education, they decide to join the army. And then they are sent into these troops in order to fight wars that doesn't even concern them, that they didn't even want to fight. But all they're looking for is an opportunity to get an education. So if you see here, we are trapped in a rat race where it's like we have no way out. Our children from the United States are fighting a war outside that they didn't choose to fight. We are over here trying to give our next generations a better life than what we had saving up money. Then our media is not doing the complete job. Then not only because maybe there is just an agenda, but we don't have people on the ground. And we don't have people in the ground because we're dealing with real terrorists. Because there is ISIS, there is al-Nusra. I've seen them. I've seen them with my eyes. Our weapons are in their hands. We know how dangerous they are. We train them in the United States. So of course we don't have people on the ground. Of course we cannot rely completely on sending a real human being or journalist in the ground. So who go there? Crazy people that believe in humanity like I am, or crazy people that will dare to stand to go against the narrative like you or like Jimmy or like these other, there are many journalists that are doing this, or just people that are questioning, because we get out of the box at one point, or one part of our heart gets touched, and you say, there's got to be something that we can do. And of course, my mother, my boyfriend, my friends, they not only think I'm completely crazy, my manager, my PR, everybody let me go, and they said, okay, Carla, you're losing your mind. Now, we understand that you want to save these people, you want to help them, but okay, you're going so many steps forward, like from 200,000 followers I had in 2016 in my Facebook, today I have a bit less than 100,000. I was stopped for 2 months almost in my Twitter. I went saying from, 200,000 to 40,000, now I'm back to 7. It's just insane. They attack you from everywhere in order for you to be quiet. So anybody that dares to go back and say something, it's already scared, because they, oh my God, what are they going to do to me? I lost so many editors for my film because they'll be scared that something would happen to them because they'll be working on the film. And I'm saying, listen, the film is not about attacking people. I'm trying to just show part of the misinformation that we have, but they are scared. So yes, the answer to your question, yes, everybody drops you. Everybody thinks you're crazy. Everybody thinks you're insane. But at the same time, when they start seeing the results of your insane work, then they realize, wait a second, she's not that crazy. Maybe we should wake up little by little and support. Not everybody, but then on the other hand, of course, yes, I thought I did not have PTSD. I do. I've been in so many terrorist attacks, and I've been in the front lines. Difference from many other Syrian activists that have been in Syria for the longest time. I've been in the battlefield, and I've been in the front lines. And I know what it is to see somebody die. So, yeah, of course, sometimes Lamborghini here in Los Angeles turns on and I jump, with their big engines. And of course, it's not normal, but my life has changed and I need to stand for the right, I have to do it. It's bigger than me. And I'm going to be attacked and you're going to be attacked and we're all going to be attacked. But I believe it's so much better to be attacked for something that can maybe create change rather than stay in our status quo and not doing anything, living our beautiful life here in California and watch the world falling. I can't do that anymore.
Man, I cannot agree with you more on that. I remember the second time I came back from Afghanistan, I remember we fed, and I put this in my documentary, we fed these kids, these Afghani kids at the edge of this base. I was in Jalalabad, and these kids ran across the side of a minefield because Afghanistan is the most heavily mined country in the world. There was a downed Russian MiG that had crashed there from the war in the 80s. And these kids came along the side of the minefield. And I remember me and one of the soldiers and the other comic, Shane Matash, we fed these kids through razor wire, bottles of water and, granola bars or whatever. And I was thinking, I have 6 nieces and nephews and they don't have to play in any minefields. They don't have to get their handouts through razor wire, and that kind of stuff and then they took us into a hospital where they were operating on kids and all that stuff. And when you see the horrors of war up close, you're forever changed by it, and you have to come back and ask yourself, am I going to and I understand, being exposed to trauma, why some people just go, all right, well, I'm going to just get drunk and high or whatever, play video games or just to have sex or not. I don't want to think about it anymore. I'm just going to, like you say, go back to our fun lives. Everything's nice. We're in California. I'm going to go to a mall, have a nice meal. And but when those images are in your head, you have to do something. And the thing that has been so amazing for me in doing this show over the last, I don't know, it's been about 20 months. It's almost been 2 years. Is meeting all the folks such as yourself, Susie Dawson, and others, and the overlying theme. Everyone says the same thing just about what you just said, which is, I can't sit around for this. And if I've lost work in show business because of my Twitter feed. My Twitter feed was too political. I lost a Hollywood job, a show business job, and I'm telling you, I'd rather have them take shots at this than play nice in their because they want us to just be pretty little actors and whatever and do their little corporate shows and not ask questions. And it's like you say, it's just not right. At the end of the day, it's not right. I don't care if I know I'm going to take shots for this, but I don't care. I mean, yeah. We're all going to die. I'm going to die knowing I did the best thing I could. And if the whole planet goes up in smoke, I tried. I can look God right in the face and say, hey, man, I tried.
I think that what you're saying is not only beautiful and it's just so true, but I believe that the majority of people in the world think the way we think. It is just most of them don't have the opportunity to see the true face of horror and the true face of war. We talk about so many times about war, confrontation and everything, but we don't know what a war is like. You've seen it. Our soldiers have seen it. That's why it is so painful for them to come back to the real world. But I have a lot of faith in humanity. I believe that the more patient we are, and the more understanding we are, like people like us, we don't have to give news to people like us that already understand and know the truth. We need to talk to the people that don't know. We need to talk to the people like us before we ever went to Afghanistan or Syria or anything. We need to find the conversation point. The problem that we have right now in the world is that we've lost the power of conversation. We've lost the power of crossing the bridge. All Democrats are bad. All Republicans are bad. Trump is horrible. Obama was horrible. Assad is a dictator. The rebels are all terrorists. It's not like that. Life is not like that. If we don't have the capability of finding the grandiosity on the Democratic Party, that there are still amazing leaders and thoughtful people in this party, and that there are also people with so many principles and values in the Republican Party. And that's what made this country great. The point that these two would come together and have a conversation and find the best options for the people. The problem is that nobody's bad and nobody's good. The point is that we need to learn from each other. The point, this is the whole thing when I'm saying, wait a second, the white helmets are the first victims on this war, because there's a lot of Syrian kids that just want to go and they volunteer, and they had no idea they had to end up working under the command of Al-Nusra or Al-Qaeda or another terrorist group. They didn't know. And then they were forced to either fake save or save only the terrorists, or ended up becoming takfirs, or Wahhabis, or they had to take weapons. So some of them decided to. So we need to understand really what these wars come together. We can't just start talking about Yemen now because we want Trump to finish the dealing with Saudi Arabia. We need to go in the bottom of this problem. The Yemen war started before Trump. The war in Syria started before Trump. It's not about a president. This is something that has to go within the principles of all of us. It's not about Khashoggi, that, by the way, this journalist had very extreme Islam thoughts. It wasn't that he was a very open, neutral journalist. Regardless, we should respect as well him. He should have his space, and nobody should be dismembered or killed. But the point is not that. The point is that we are using something that happened in the media, and the media is being pushing in order to mistalk about Yemen, that right now is the bigger cause of everything. So if we're going to start addressing real problems, we need to address real solutions. And the real solutions for all these big problems, it is just one: end of war. That's it. It doesn't matter what we say, how many conversations we take. I am not a political analyst. I don't have PhDs in political science on any of this. But as a human being, I know that the end of conflict, end of killing, it is only ending with the end of war. It's common sense. And that's what it should be our duty. Whatever we're standing in the nation, or whatever our point of view it is on Houthis or Saudi Arabia or anything. Like, do we really want to see whole countries exterminated? I mean, for 2 years now, for 1 year, a child in Yemen is dying every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, a child dies of what? Preventable diseases. It's not even a bombing. Like, does this really sink in for us? This is our bigger problem. Our indifference, and then our lack of action, because we think that our action is not going to have any effect. And that's the number one lie. Our actions have huge effects.
Yeah, that's a great point. This is something I talk a lot about on this show, because a lot of people just fly, I'm just one person. And I just say, well, I'm just one guy. You're just one person. And one little action here and one little action there adds up. It all adds up. I mean, I think about, I started the show, I had 164 subscribers. Now I have over 10,000. That's with Google throttling my numbers and all that. And there's all these people that I'm learning about. I've learned about you. I've learned about Abby Martin. I've learned about all these amazing people. Chris Hedges' new book. I'm learning about all these people that want to get involved. And I think that's such a great point. It's a thing I make to people. No, even a little action that you take, and I can have a ripple effect, and it's what I believe you're talking about. And I'm glad you have a hope in humanity, and it's nice to hear, because I try to, and I have days where I'm like, oh man, I don't know today. I don't know if I have it today. And then I meet people such as yourself, or I see other people that are out doing stuff, and I say, okay, there is a hope out there. And that's the thing I think I'm trying to convey a lot on this channel, is there's more of us than those that are in power that are profiting from war. They're making money from war. And that's, to me, what a big part of this is. It's just that there's not a lot of wars for noble reasons. It's for profit. The Syria thing is about the pipeline. We want our pipeline. The Soviets want, or Russia and Iran wants their pipeline, so we're battling over oil. It's all more people dying from oil. 22 American vets a day commit suicide from PTSD, most of it related to combat. And there's stuff we can all do that would help all of us. I really feel like I want to see more of an anti-war movement in America like there was in the 60s and 70s, I guess, is my overall point that I'm making here. Let's, before we wrap up here, tell us about your film, the status of it, when people can maybe see, when it'll be ready for people to watch. I know how long it takes to make documentaries. I've directed 2 of them. I know it takes so long.
Please, I thought it was going to take 15, 30 days. I'm going to finish this in 5 months, then in 6 months, then in 1 year, then in 2 years, 3 years. My goodness. It's been a beautiful journey. And it's tough because I have so many stories and I have so much information, and I want to keep the film human. I want to give the human face to this war and to my characters and to the stories. So I think we're very close now. So I'm pretty sure that by the middle of next year, we'll be open. If it continues, we're going to try to start in a film festival. So we're going to try to tour a little bit in the film festivals, and then we are already in conversations for 1 year with 2 mainstream outlets in order to put up the film. Obviously, they have to watch the film to see how daring they will be in order to push this. Obviously, later we're going to put it up for public, domain for anybody to watch the film. I think that, Voice of Syria as an entity, because for me, the beautiful thing in Syria is that Syrians consider Syria as a mother, like as a living, breathing mother, like alive. She exists, she's there, she's been hurt, she's been punished, and they love her. So Voice of Syria has this other sort of meaning to me, sort of like the voice of the mother of our heritage, the mother of where we all come from, right? And I am giving its time to this mother to take also the proper journey that it needs to take. This film is, I put everything in this film, everything that I've ever owned, everything that I've ever had. I sacrificed 3 years of my career as an actress, as a producer. I sold my house because they came over here in this country after everything, after my bank accounts. They froze everything. They went after my house, everything. So I don't own anything anymore here but the film. And I put everything on the film. So for me, the film, it is my gift to Syrians, to humanity, and to these people that actually gave me hope that no matter how bad your life becomes or a war becomes, they cannot destroy your soul. And that's the greatest gift I have received from the Syrian people. Like I told you, I arrived there when 75% of the country was taken by terrorist groups. I was in houses where they were completely burned down, and everybody was killed. And the husband of the family who saw the slaughtering of all his family would tell me, we will rebuild this house from these stones. I'm going to invite you in this house. We're going to win this war because we're righteous. And you're looking at them and, God, please forgive me. But I was saying, like, are you crazy? Like, you're in 30% of the country. There are terrorists all over your country. You have the 7 most powerful nations against you. Like, there is no way you're going to win this war. And how are you going to rebuild this? And I've been there. I've seen all these houses rebuilt. I've seen the cities completely rebuilt. I've seen the reopening of 75 schools in Aleppo after 6 months of its liberation. I mean, after 10 days in Douma, of the liberation of Douma, there were already 1,500 children going to school after 4 years of not receiving any education. And the most valuable thing that I've learned is that none of them have resentment. None of them have hatred. Wow. None of them desire death to anything. And that is in my documentary. And that is in some of the live videos that I've made on my Twitter, on my Facebook, which is they just say, Inshallah, everything's going to be okay. We don't wish this to even our worst enemies, not even the terrorists. God will take care of this. They have no hate. This is the teaching, Graham. They're not angry. They're over this. They're beyond hatred. And for me, this is the greatest gift I received, and I would love to give this gift. You can only rebuild yourself. You can only retransform yourself if you are able to be untouched of all these lower feelings of hatred, darkness, anger, and this extreme separation and extreme views, like I'm right or I'm left. We can't do this. We need to start embracing each other because the earth is going to stay here. The ones that are going to disappear is going to be humanity. We need to learn to love each other again, and we're only going to learn to love each other if we see who we are. And this is why you watch your documentary about Afghanistan, so you understand the Afghanis. You watch Voice of Syria to understand who are the Syrian people. We need to learn more about ourselves because you can't love what you don't know.
That's a beautiful sentiment, Carla, and I really applaud all the work you're doing and have done, and just you're a badass. I'll just say it right like that. You're a badass for going through that. And I know I went through bankruptcy, foreclosure. I've done all that stuff, and still you keep going. The fact that they've come after you and you keep going with this film is amazing. So I wish you the best of luck. When the movie's done, please hit me up. I also have a movie review podcast called Comedy Film Nerds. We talk to filmmakers all the time.
What do you mean you're going to come to the opening?
Yes.
Are you crazy?
I'm coming to the opening. I will be at the opening, of course. I will come to the opening for sure. And I'll help support that movie in any way that I can whenever it's out. So, Carla, thank you so much. Where can people find you if they want to, keep up to date on what's going on with the movie and everything from Syria? Where would they go?
Yes, well, my Twitter and my Instagram is Carla Ortiz O with C, and my Facebook is of Carla Ortiz Official. Now, guys, if you want to learn more about Syria, don't believe anything that I say. Go and watch the live videos that I did while I was there. Listen to the people, and then Google and do your own investigation. The number one and last thing I would like to say, Graham, thank you so much first for your patience and for giving me this space and, making it happen. I think that the one thing that I'm trying to spread now, I haven't been giving interviews in the last 6 months because obviously after all the persecution that I've suffered, I decided to focus on the film. It is that let's make our job not to convert people into the truth. It is our job, the ones that know the truth, to educate, not to judge. If we are so lucky that today we know what's going on in the world, let's not judge and dismiss the people that don't have yet the chance to know. Let's make it our job to inform them, and let's let them decide, what they think. But if we just like are patient enough to talk to 3 people a week, we'll make a much better job than all the press. The media, mainstream media, and governments are not the most powerful ones. It's us, the people.
Yeah,
and it is through that communication that we can re-engage.
That's a great, beautiful, and very powerful message, which is, I see why they're threatened by it. They don't want all of us to get together. They want us to stay fighting. Republican, Democrat, red state, blue state, Christian, Muslim. They want us all separated and fighting. And if we do what you're doing, which is a beautiful thing, everybody gets together, then actually this planet could be saved and could be an amazing place. Well, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day, and thank you for being patient with all of the technical stuff that was we had to deal with to make this happen. So thank you so much, everybody. Please follow Carla online. And if you're new to the show, we could use your support at patreon.com/Graham Elwood. And all of my tour dates and all that, I'm doing more progressive comedy tours with Ron Placone. Please go to grahamelwood.com, and you can follow me on social media. And next spring you'll see photos of me at the premiere of Voice of Syria. So
I will start following you, Graham.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great
Many blessings to everybody, and thank you to you.